All right, this is Steve Woodruff here with Chris Brogan, my good friend and someone I have had contact with over many, many years. And Chris, you and I have watched each other evolve in our various and sundry social media craft and conferences and all of this, and it's really been fun. But one of the challenges that's always been there is you keep trying new things. And it makes it kind of difficult to pin down, okay, who's Chris Brogan today? But I've always been convinced that there's something underneath there that's always been Chris Brogan, whether it's social media, writing, entrepreneurship, whatever. So what's the essence of the Chris Brogan that's always been there through all this evolution?
In writing and entertainment and whatnot, there's that concept of a through line, where no matter how weird or far out it gets, you kind of look for that. What do these all have in common? And I am blessed with an uncanny ability to take the garbage of my life, several decades of weird choices, and look at it through a completely lying lens and go, this is totally planned. And I would say that the through line really, there's a few different layers to it, of course. And my premise has always been, like, if you look back to even when I was just like the lowliest of lowly employees, I was always just like, why can't we do this differently? Why do we have to be little robots in a line? I was a grocery store employee, right? So I'm a bagger, but I'm not a bagger. I'm a packaging engineer. And when I am in that line, I carry this patois with the people. I'm talking about their food. I'm making jokes. I'm complimenting their clothes or teasing them about their clothes. So much so that at North Andover Star Market, where I went to high school, North Andover Star Market, there was a line for me, even if other registers were open. Good brag, right? I'm like a great packaging engineer. So I've taken that through every asset, everything I've ever done. I've just wanted to hit it a different way. Not because, well, maybe because of some ego. Maybe because I want to be, stand out in a way. Which is weird for a shy guy who is an introvert. But then as I started working with companies, like the first big companies, when I started doing, I blogged starting in 98, but when anyone really paid attention to me, I just said, what would be great is if you could act a lot more human. If you could treat people like you really wanted to reach them and you really wanted to serve them. And I changed my language around to say, no matter what I'm really doing for a job, what I'm really trying to do is teach companies how to treat my mom better. And that's been my thing for a couple decades now, with a lot of different how-to of that changing as we go.
Well, I've seen that theme throughout your blogs, throughout your writing, and actually just throughout personal interaction. There's always been this interest of yours of humanity, getting in touch with humanity. And a lot of early social media was all about how do we be human? How do we be authentic? So that played right into the way you operated. By the way, I used to bag groceries too, but I never really thought of myself as some kind of an engineer and didn't have any lines waiting for me. I don't know, maybe I didn't do it right. So as you've progressed now and you've got this interest in the human aspect, tell me how that's taking its form now in what you're doing. What's the human business aspect of what you're really promoting at this point?
So it's been an interesting 10 years, let's say. I would say that the heyday of me being me was this new technology shows up, this thing that everyone's calling social media, and everyone's brain is just like, because what happened was the vast majority of business professionals said, this is stupid. Like the minute they saw it, they were like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And then they could not escape it. At every turn, every news media thing, it was everywhere. People were talking about this Twitter thing and blogging, and when YouTube came out, and it was just like this thing. And so many companies, the biggest companies in the world, hired like their nephews and nieces to run their businesses and be the public face of a massive corporation with like the background and the branding and the customer service experience of someone who was really good at tweeting. Horrendous. So I caught this wave so perfectly by mistake. I got a book deal at the very most perfect time. It was right after the 2008 financial crisis. My book came out in 2009 with Julian Smith. I rang up Julian and said, you want to write a book? He was like, oh, okay. Literally, we were just like two idiots. And I said, it'd be fun if I had you with me. And he said, go. So we wrote a book called Trust Agents. By total magic, it became a New York Times bestseller, a Wall Street Journal bestseller, Amazon, but that's not too hard, Inc. magazine, and 800 CEO read. So we just got like all the awards. Like I'll take all it's like the EGOT of idiots, basically. That's what we got. And in that whole process, Julian Smith and I never, ever, ever, ever wanted to talk about, gee whiz, the tools were cool. We wanted to say, how can we use these tools to use the web to build reputation and earn trust? How do we use the web to be more human? And so we did that for a bunch of years. Another book came out called Impact Equation that Julian and I wrote. It was, okay, well, everyone got on the web, but they didn't do it very well. How do you break through the noise? Ever since, I think I've just been trying to say, okay, you kind of messed up. I'll help you get back on. But now the oversaturation of that, of telling people, gee whiz, tweets are cool. I mean, I'm 11 years out. I started in 2006. It's 13 years since Twitter launched. And I'm pretty sure we've got it or we're never going to get it. And I never cared. Like, I never wanted to talk about Twitter. So where I am in it, Steve, is then what, right? We're reading less. Blogging is less and less a thing. I made all of my big chops on blogging. That's why I got a book deal. I wrote bunches of books because I could write bunches of blog posts. But it's gone. People are consuming 1 billion hours of video a day. People are reading 19 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And so I'm out there saying, okay, well, the media thing is just not as interesting to me per se, because I want to pull back and what did this do to us? There are these big reports that just came out last week and the week before saying that teenagers are going massive stress, massive anxiety, suicidal attempts, massively up because of things like Instagram. And so I realize introverts like myself, people who deal with mild depression like myself, people who are feeling a little bit harried because of the new pace of the modern world, they're doomed. And so I thought, what could I do for them? And that's where I am now.
Well, you and I have had this discussion, particularly several weeks ago. We spent about a half a day at a bakery over coffee talking about this. And one of the things that you've not been shy about, and I've not been shy about, is talking about mental health issues like depression. Right. And the fact that we're all imperfect, we're all dented. And part of the human and business or organizational interface is, how does a business create an environment and a context where humans can be human and be productive instead of us all having to fit into a straitjacket? And is this kind of the direction where you see yourself going, and where you see yourself doing now, the new speeches and the new consulting with customers? It's not just tweeting, it's environments.
Right. So I have, my background was in corporate world. I was in telecom and then wireless telecom. So I've worked with pretty big companies. My client base in telecom were, the other big phone carriers in the US back when there were lots of them. And so I have that kind of background. So I know how hard it is to move that kind of a ship. And I know that there's a dichotomy happening that's a little unintentional, but it is, which is, we just want to get the goals accomplished, right? There's no boss out there going, gee whiz, corporate health, mental health or whatever. They're not saying it. They know it's important. They say it's important. But if I had to ask them what part of their budget they'd give me to do that, they'd say about none. It's one of those weird, like, when did you stop beating your wife? You know what I mean? If you say, I haven't stopped, because I never started, then you look dumb, and so on. So I need to, what I've said for years, I need to hide the broccoli inside the cake. Like, I need to say, look at this delicious cake. I've joked for a million years, the most successful fitness book in the world should be, you want to lose weight, you big fatso, eat broccoli. But no one buys a book called You Should Eat More Broccoli, right? They buy books called You Can Eat a Cheeseburger and Still Get Skinny. So I need to put cake around this broccoli and, give this secret, very important stuff about corporate mental health. I need to hide it in things like, I'm going to make your guys more productive. I've got to hide it in, holy cow, there's a lot of technology changes that are going to scare the poo out of your people. If you want to retain your employee base and you want to get them into this modern world a little bit better, digital transformation isn't the software. It's the humans who have to type into it. And so that's how I'm looking to phrase it, I guess. And then that works internally and externally. I think we're really tired of mass everything. I think we're tired. the factory is over. I mean, look at America. I'm living in a factory. My house, directly behind me are the walls of a factory because we don't need it anymore. Now it's my bedroom, right? This isn't, but So I think that if we're being educated as if we're going to fit in a factory. We're going through processes as if the same as the best output we could ever have. And I'm just saying, no, we all come one to a pack. Now what? And I think companies probably don't want to hear that internally or externally. But I think if we look at their numbers together, it shows, retention is down. Customer loyalty is way off. But why would a customer be loyal if we treat you like the other 44 million customers?
Right.
It in no way reflects your personal connection to that company. And I think it needs to. So that's where I am with that.
I happen to agree with you. I think the human attraction and the human interface, both customer facing outward and inward, is going to be a big part of how companies succeed. We're not going to just be putting people on a Model T assembly line and just making them interchangeable parts. We've been there and we've done that. And, I think we're past it. So one of the things that I'm hoping companies in the future, in the near future, will be doing is asking the questions, how can we create a very healthy environment for our people? And our people are going to have problems. They're going to have emotional problems, mental health problems. They may struggle with depression, with anxiety, with whatever. And instead of just steamrolling all that, how do we create an interface that's healthy in a team environment, in a corporate environment? And I think that's a great direction for you to go. And it's kind of like right along the through line of what you've always done, but it's the next iteration of it. So when you look at your future, the things you want to do as far as speaking or writing or consulting, tell me what are some of the customers that are ideal for you, or you think you would fit in nicely and be able to help?
I think any organization that realizes that their employee output might be hampered by slightly lagging management factors, for instance. It's not like I'm some kind of manager expert, but what I know for sure is that all the butt in chair management that's gone on since there were managers, I think that no longer really applies very well. I think in a world where, however many hours you spend a day looking busy is no longer a really good measure of busy. And I think that output-based management, that sort of a thing, is important. But I also think that when you learn how to harness the benefits of people's regular cycles and systems, I was saying before we started recording, why do we treat early birds and night owls the same? There's so few businesses that require a human being to be there at a specific time. I guess I want my surgeon to be there when we both agreed we'd be there. But even that, if my surgeon said I work better at 1 a.m., I'd be like, great, let's do it. Because I want my surgeon to be on their optimal resource time, So I think that, and for some reason, Steve, when I talk about this, when I talk about we should allow scheduling and time to be a little more flexible, I don't know why. Here's what they always say to me: toll takers got to be there when the cars are going through. And I said, I don't know where you live, but where I live, it's all robots now. We don't have toll takers. We drive 65 miles an hour past where that used to be. So, bless your heart if you're preserving those go toll takers of America, I guess. So I just think that where I want to be is where companies are looking for that. I want to help make it easier to talk about things like how do you, like, for instance, sales organizations, resetting after a no is really hard. I think that mental health and stress challenges are crazy. And salespeople are always looking for, how do I get more optimal? How do I get more efficient? But they're not really getting a lot of how do I nurture, partly because they get that weird feeling, oh, that's too foo-foo. But for instance, I have a speech called Meditation for People Who Hate Meditation. The guy that got me interested in meditation was a Navy SEAL, Commander Mark Devine. Just like the person who got me into yoga was a former professional wrestler, Diamond Dallas Page. So I can show a not so yoga pantsy way of getting into a better mind state, which, Navy SEALs use. And so I don't think you can dismiss it too easily. And I think that there's a lot of organizations that can benefit from that. So I'm looking for that. And I've done so many years now of sales and marketing help just in trying to massage messages to make them feel a little bit more personable and a wee bit more creative while still being personable, that I think that I can always help the external organization as well. I'm a little ambidextrous that way. I know that we're not supposed to do that anymore, but I have to serve both.
Well, there are issues that transcend both external and internal, and I have found that to be very much true in my clarity practice, that the clarity practice, there's all this external facing, how do we get a message to our customers and how do we make ourselves clear to them? But there's internal as well. You know, how do we get it aligned around certain principles and truths and identities? So some of these things transcend both internal and external. And I think creating a good organizational interface for people is something that's going to go both ways. And in your case, it's the people that already feel the need and that want someone to come in and provide an impetus that's probably going to be the most ready to have you speak or come in. You know, if somebody doesn't care about this stuff, they don't want to have you come in. You're going to just create trouble.
Right.
So,
right. People who have disposable employee bases, they don't want me.
No, not at all. And that's actually one of the most important things, is to tell people, here are the ones to refer, and here are the ones that don't bother referring because they won't be into it at all. Well, Chris, it's been great to catch up. I'm really glad to see where you're heading with this. And I think there's a huge runway of need for this kind of development and this message. And it's a message that will continue to be relevant as the marketplace morphs, because we're going to still be humans, no matter what happens in these organizations.
I'm with you. Thank you, Your Highness, for helping with so much clarity. It was definitely a lot of fun to go from my version of language to something that made just a little more sense to more people. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Chris, great to see you. Take care.
Thank you.